Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be talking about, somebody actually asked me this, like how it was before I got diagnosed and how I got there. So when I believe I was 11, so like winter in 2011, I got sick. I got a sore throat, and a lot of research has indicated that like a virus or stress may trigger Takayasu, and I believe that's what happened to me. I think that's that sore throat, which later became strep throat, was what triggered my Takayasu. So when I was younger, I remember would always have like really bad headaches, like all the time. I always had headaches. I was always getting sick, but it was never really bad. I had a few ER visits when I was like little, but they never really found anything. And as I started getting older, like I said, like in 2011, I think the first thing that I remember now is when I was in 5th grade. I joined a soccer team. Like I think it was like towards the summertime. I joined the soccer team, and every time we would warm up, I would get extremely tired, like really tired. And I remember one day we were doing jumping jacks, and I just started seeing everything like turn black and like stars everywhere. So I feel like that was like some of the first signs for me that there was something wrong, but it was never really bad to the point where we were like actually wanted, like, to where we actually want to look into it, you know? So in 2011 in the winter time, that's when I got the sore throat. And this time went by. One day, maybe like 2 weeks after, like the sore throat kept continuing, I ended up going to the doctor because it was still hurting really bad. I couldn't really eat. Like everything that I would try eating would hurt my throat really bad. So I ended up going to the doctor. He took a swab for my throat, and it came out positive for strep throat. So we were like, oh, like that's why it was hurting so bad. So like few weeks keep going by. I still have the sore throat. I'm getting fevers. So like little things like the fevers, the sore throat, the strep throat lasting so long. So eventually I go back to the doctor, and I end up finding out, oh, my blood pressure is really high, like every single time I go. And we started noticing little by little, like no matter how much I would eat, I would never gain weight. I would just lose it, and I would keep losing more each time. So it got to a point where we noticed, started going like 2 pounds this day, 3 pounds this day. It started going by fives, like 5 pounds less and less each time. I think at the point where I actually ended up going to the ER, I was weighing 55 pounds. So that was a very tiny weight. That was a little bit for me. And so I kept going to the doctor to get that checked out. They were just like, oh, it's because you're sick from strep throat. And we were just like, okay. So keep going, losing weight. My joints, that was one thing I couldn't stand. My joints have always been like my biggest problem. My joints started hurting a lot. They were hurt all the time, and it was usually my knees and my ankles. Also, my hands and my feet would get like this tingly ant feeling. Like there was a lot of ants walking all over, and they would get so red and hot. Like when I'm telling y'all they were red and hot. It was just like my hand would be super red and like really hot, and my feet too, and it was so weird to me. So I ended up, I don't think I ever really mentioned that to a doctor, not that I remember, it was a long time ago, but that happened. And within time, I think on my left foot, I couldn't step on it. So basically I was like losing mobility on my leg, and I couldn't walk. So I had to use like a brace on my foot, and I was basically limping everywhere, like with just one foot walking, like, you know. So that was like really hard, and I don't even think that we had elevators at the middle school where I was when I started getting sick. I was in 6th grade and I went to a girls' school at the time. Was there elevators? I don't really remember, but if there was, I never used it, or I never knew there was one. I don't know. But so during this time, I lost like mobility on my feet, and I was still going to my primary doctor, and so I ended up going to like the head doctor, and he said, oh, maybe the bacteria spread out to like my bones. And that was really scary for me, because he said that it would mean that basically my bones were like going to start to like dissolve, and that was really, really scary for me. I couldn't imagine that. And so I kept going to my other doctor, and he prescribed shots. So every other day I had to go into the doctor and get a shot to like help with the bacteria, like kill the bacteria. And I never felt like I was getting better, but I felt like it was helping, which was essentially what he was trying to do. And I think so for like maybe like 3 days I started getting like a lot of fevers and throwing up and stuff, and I wasn't going to school. And on the day that I did decide to go to school because I felt better, I was at the bus stop getting like ready to go into the bus and everything, and I just started throwing up, and I couldn't stop throwing up, and it was just really bad. And so my mom, that moment, she decided that she was gonna take me to the emergency room. Like there was no more waiting around to see like if I would ever get better. So she took me to the emergency room, and while I was there, they took my blood pressure, and it was really, really high. It was usually like the 150s over 90s. So they were really scared by that because I was so young and so small, so it didn't make sense for me to have those kinds of numbers. So they took my blood pressure multiple times to try to make sure that they were correct. They took my weight. They were like, you're really underweight. And so they started taking all these blood tests. The first thing that they found was, they didn't find anything at first. There was just something about antibodies. That was like, they kept telling me that antibodies. But at that moment, like honestly, I didn't know what that was. I was like, what? Like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So as time went by, they decided to keep me in the hospital, and they gave me my room and everything. They kept doing tests every single day, like ultrasounds, MRI, CT scans, all of that stuff. And they just had me on fluids because while I was there, I couldn't stop throwing up. So every morning they would come in and take my weight, like at 5-6 in the morning. They would take my weight. They would come like at 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning to take my blood every single day that I was there, trying to figure out what was wrong with me. And so I think I had like 2 IVs, one for like fluids and like pain medications, and like one for like blood and all of that stuff. And so while they were doing all of that, they were also doing all those scans and all of that. And there was this one MRI that they did, and these tests, like urine tests and all of that, they found that I had like a lot of protein, so there was obviously something wrong in my kidneys. So they did that CT scan, and they found that the right renal artery was almost invisible. They couldn't even see it because it was like way smaller than a thread, so it was invisible in the MRI pictures. And that was like one of the main things that they saw at first. And they were like, okay, so her right kidney is like way smaller than her left one, which makes no sense. And so they ended up diagnosing me with IgM nephropathy, which was a kidney disease. So after that, since they noticed that about my artery, and like also my aorta is like normal, and then it's like really small, and then it's normal again, which is like, you know, a main thing from Takayasu. And they ended up turning me over to a rheumatologist, and she started focusing on like the vasculitis and all of that stuff. And she she met up with me, started asking me all these questions, like what's been going on. One of the first things that I remember that they asked me was like, are you always getting tired? Is your blood pressure always like this? Like when did you start losing weight? Another thing that they asked me was about the tingly feeling and the antsy feelings and like the joint pain, and that was like one of the main things that I pointed out. And they also made me get up and show them the way that I walked because of the mobility that I was losing on my right, or was it my left? I believe it was my left foot. And so that happened, and they got me crutches, so I had to use crutches all the time. And they like made me get into physical therapy so I could like step down again and stuff like that. So basically I had to like make my foot walk again, and it was the weirdest feeling ever because I felt like it was so numb. Like I couldn't feel it. Like I would touch the floor with my foot and it felt so weird to me. So all of that happened. She finally ended up showing me like more pictures of my aorta and like my arteries and all of that stuff, and she told me that I had Takayasu. And so she explained what Takayasu was, and she told me, you know, it's a Japanese condition. It comes from like Japanese origin. It's like usually Asians have it, not usually, but it's like a really rare, but it's most common in Asians. And she told me, you're not Asian, you don't have like Asian family at all, like you don't know. And she would always ask me like every single time, are you sure there's like you don't have any Asian like descendancy and anything like that? And I was like, no. So yeah, she told me that it was rare, it was a rare condition, and I was pretty surprised. She ended up telling me that I was like the first Hispanic female youngest child that she had ever seen with Takayasu. And so it was like really hard for them to treat me. Like they were scared because they didn't know what was going on. They didn't really know how to treat Takayasu. They only had like 1 or 2 other kids with Takayasu, and they were older and they were males, so they didn't really know how to treat me. And also they said that their cases were like they were different. Mine is like the most unique one that they have at the moment, so they're like really intrigued by it. And so I think the first medication that, like the first infusion that they ever put me on was infliximab, and then they ended up putting me like on methotrexate, prednisone. Like I was on 30 milligrams of prednisone, methotrexate. I was on, I think I was on Solumedrol. Like I was on a lot of medications, like a lot of medications, and it was really hard for me because along with the medication came a lot of changes, which is the story for another time. But yeah, it was really hard, and like getting there, that was hard as well. Like having to accept that you're like sick and there's a lot of things you can't do and this and that. But overall, I believe that my doctors have like treated me pretty well, which I'm really grateful for. And also I think that there isn't enough research like in the whole United States. There's not enough research, there's not enough people that know about it, like doctors at all. So I understand that like in a lot of different states, a lot of people can't get treated, or it takes them years and years for them to actually get diagnosed and then be treated, and by then it could actually have advanced. So I feel like if you have the opportunity to get a second opinion and stuff like that, that should be like informed. Find out hospitals, make calls to places that would actually be willing to treat Takayasu, because it's really hard to find doctors and hospitals that would actually treat it and look into it. So yeah, so I wish y'all the best of luck, and I really hope that this video helped y'all. So you know, if y'all have like any questions about medications, like just remember I've literally taken almost every single medication you could possibly think of, and I know all the side effects, and anything else like that I would love to tell you all about it. So yeah, just keep watching, let me know what y'all want to know about, and yeah, thank you.